From talking with your friends to educating yourself on the World Wide Web at the touch of a button, finding out endless facts and figures and just keeping up to date with the news, the smartphone is an excellent technology. Criticism: you are now not a social being. You're talking to people on it, aren't you? Instead of sitting on the bus doing nothing, just listening to music or talking to a family you might not particularly get along with, or just talking to strangers who you don't particularly get along with. You are very much socialising when you're on social media and on your phones to people you actually want to talk to. Seems like a pretty logical thing to do to me. It's unproductive. Well, there are plenty of things to find out on the internet, right? That's what you get with smartphones, hopefully with good Wi-Fi connection. You will find out endless things. I don't know what this is. I'll just speak into my phone, or I'll just type into my phone. It's unhealthy. Well, you can track your movement with apps. You have healthy tips, food, body confidence, workouts. You have YouTube, which is a wealth of education, as well as comedy, as well as good advice. The point is with smartphones, as with most technologies, is that they are good when used in moderation. The main criticism you get of smartphones is that there's too much usage of it, overconsumption. We are living our lives at the expense of our everyday lives with our family and friends, even though, again, when you're talking on your phone, who are you talking to? You're not talking to strangers, you will be talking to your friends, as most people have always done. They don't particularly talk to their families too much. Alright, maybe at meal times, catch up with each other. But quite frankly, if youngsters do have anything actually going on, they might want to tell their parents if there's actually anything going on. Just regular small talk, as we always have done, probably not so much. Is that a bad thing? Potentially, if you actively don't want to speak to your folks. But it's not all that revolutionary or different compared to most of human history when you really think about it. If the marker of a technology being bad is it's used too much, then the actual technology itself is not bad. With how much smartphones, social media, YouTube have pushed things on are improving life in all the advice, education, fun, humour ways, making lonely people feel connected. Which, by the way, the technology should be more accessible and pushed to an older crowd. It would help them with the pandemic of loneliness that we have in the world, as well as disabled people as well, of course. That main problem of excessive usage needs to be solved. Young age, we say to kids, we play with kids, we're there for kids. We say to them to not be obsessed with these things. We actively say it to them. There are different kinds of brainwashing. You can have a healthy brainwashing, and it is just okay. You can have these things. It's not they make them glamorous, taboo things that are completely denied. Whilst that might work for a minority of families, most families that won't work. So okay, you can have these things, but just for a time limit or for a certain amount of time, so that when you do get old enough and then you're properly independent with your usage of technology and everything else, then you can manage your own time, and you will have a pang of guilt will just spring up in your mind and say, I'm using this too much here, aren't I? I'm going to quickly tweet that I'm on Facebook too much and I need to get off it. Whatever it takes. You will have that pang of guilt if from an early age, as with anything, you've been told that overtraining, overdoing anything is, by the definition of the word, overdoing it. You're overdoing it. Let's cut back on usage. We all love to be connected with our phones and could have a message from anybody at any time, especially if it's from a crush. We love the idea of being connected and never missing. We don't want to miss out. We always crave the interactivity that you get with being in a WhatsApp group or talking on Facebook or seeing what your favourite celebrities or not so favourite celebrities are saying on Twitter. But there has to be a limit, and I agree with the main criticism of smartphones and technology in general in that sense. But that is not an actual criticism of the technology. That's a failure of societies to understand how to cope with the technology. Technologies are fantastic. If you showed this to the Middle Ages or before, just 100 years ago, a few decades ago, people would be amazed at these magical boxes. So much can be achieved, and as I was researching this, even to the point of where smartphones can actually be seismometers. They can detect when earthquakes are going to happen. And of course you have when you start thinking of the other benefits of handheld technology, is if you're alone at night and potentially vulnerable, or even if you've been taken, you can alert people as to where you are. You have Google Maps. As long as you have a decent connection, you can find your way. And as mentioned, with all the apps and things that are pushed towards you being healthy, we just need that good understanding as to how to best use the technology. But the actual technology itself is a modern miracle. It's fantastic, and all the people who have developed it should be very proud of themselves. Society just needs to properly catch up with the technologies. We're still very early and young with all these technologies. We'll get there. It's just taking time to catch up. The Western world, oh, we need more food. Now we have a load of food and now we're all obese. Doesn't mean that having a lot of food's bad. We've just got to know how to manage it. Same with technology. The more technologies we have, the greater understanding we have of science and nature, and even bigger technologies, flying into space, or other technologies that can help in everyday life. Instead of programs like The One Show looking to denigrate and put down smartphones and technology, we should look to celebrate them and look and find out how we can properly live, coexist with our new devices attached to us all the time. Instead of just saying to demonising kids, oh, why are they always on it? What is there for them to do all the time? Well, as I've just said, there's an endless world of possibilities on YouTube, just YouTube alone, let alone Facebook and Twitter and all the rest of the activities, and just talking to their friends, people who they would naturally get along with, as anybody else would do. Children are making sense. They are living logical lives. There's a lot to do here. Let's do it. When we had TV, everybody, wow, TV, magical box. Let's get glued to it, as so many people still are. But increasingly, the younger generations aren't as glued to TV. They've got Netflix. They've got other ways to watch it. Illegal streaming. People are going to naturally be gravitating towards these things. Another final criticism is this rewiring our brains. No, it's not. Overconsumption helps rewire your brains, and that in itself is certainly not a good thing. You don't want to be overly affecting it to the point where you can't speak properly, you can't concentrate. And I'm guilty of this. I've watched so much TV and been so involved in technology that at times I will just drift away, and it's actually quite hard to properly concentrate when you're reading a book. Your concentration just won't be there. It's actually hard to take in the words and get them in there. So I know firsthand that it can affect your brain. And again, that's a failure of your ability to analyse the situation and the upbringing to appreciate as to how to deal with technology. Again, we're still learning, we're still new with it, but a good, balanced, moderate upbringing will surely give us a better chance of coping with all these technologies and enjoying the technologies the way they are meant to be enjoyed. So whilst we just say, oh, I don't need to know these things, I can just Google it straight away, just get on my phone and Google these things. The potential for just having that all the time is bad, and the rewiring of the structure of your brains and the slowing down of your brains. The more you watch TV, the more your brain stops working. You're actually better just sit in a dark room and watch TV, and how much your brain switches off. But again, that's because you're overdoing it. If you just use it enough, you will take in more information. The way you know that the main argument of this is wrong is that, okay, when you don't have your phone, even the people who are attached to the phone 12 hours a day, if they didn't have the phone, then what would they do? Alright, they might suffer and concentration wouldn't be there, but they would still be able to talk. The conversations might not be riveting. The concentration with reading or any other activity might not be, well, it will not be optimal, but they will still be able to do it. Your brain hasn't been restructured completely. Your brain is an amazing entity, the greatest entity we've ever known in the universe, and it will be able to find a way. And especially if you then had a detox, if you put the phone down for a while, even if for years you've been abusing it, your brain will surprisingly recover very quickly. But even if you're not doing that, you're just putting it down for a while after having used it a long time, you will still be able to function. You'll still be able to do all the things that you need to do to survive. Again, you won't be at your best, completely agree with that, but you will be able to carry on, which means the brain hasn't fundamentally changed. Just the input that you've been feeding into it has changed for a while. Certain structures in your brain can be unmade. Certain patterns in your brain can be unmade. And so the demonization of phones, you're going to get brain cancer, or you're properly changing your brains. As you'll see quite a few videos on those sorts of things, as I did when I was researching this. It doesn't make logical sense to me in that your brain can change back over consumption of anything that could be harmful. But just even when you're not stopping an addiction, you're just having a break and you put the phone down. Even kids who haven't had an awful lot of knowledge and experience pushed into their brains, they will still be able to carry on a conversation. It's possible. They won't be particularly inclined to, but they could do it. They all have thousands of words in the vocabulary. They could do it. They can still eat. They can still ride a bike. They can still do all kinds of things, in that your brain hasn't fundamentally changed. Sections of it might change, will change, but the brain is not going to be put off that easily. We should have more faith and understanding in what our brains can do. So the point is, smartphones, good technology. There's my amateur review of technology. But I think that just makes sense. It just makes logical sense that whilst you're overdoing it, it will work against you. You use it a moderate amount of time, which will be different for every person. Only you will know how much your mental faculties might be suffering, or how much you're getting done in a day, or actually enjoying or not even enjoying the technology anymore. Only you will really know that. But when you're honest with yourself, you can handle technology so much better. And technology, of course, with the inventions, innovations that it's taken to get all of these amazing things, it's an amazing thing that we've come up with. We are inventing amazing things and will continue to invent amazing things. Hopefully above and beyond smartphones, because that, as good as smartphones are, is not the pinnacle of humanity. We haven't reached the end point of our inventions, hopefully. But as with pretty much every technology, don't blame the technology, blame our handling of it. Because overall, it is a technology that does help us. We are more connected. The scope for learning is just endless, for knowing more. Instead of fetishizing the past and saying how amazing everyone was in the past, the societies, and we all talked and got along and everything was amazing. Not really when you think about it. In some ways, there are things to learn from the past, but overall, things like smartphones, when we use them properly, in my opinion, they do help.